Karna is a Pandava. He was born, I think he was the firstborn, which makes him the king. But for one reason or the other, no judgment, his mom didn't have the wherewithal to raise a kid right then. Put him in a little raft and set him down the river. If it sounds like Moses, yes, you are not far off there. Remember, all of these stories have analogs somewhere. There is also a flood story in this book.
In Egypt, I don't remember which god it is, but he also gets floated down the river.
Yeah, no, the floating down the river thing is very common. You know, Moses was not the first one to, all right, just make this disappear. But yeah, so Karna is noble, but he was floated downriver as an infant and raised as a commoner. And because of his great skills, however, he rose to some prominence. People started to recognize, wow, he is really, really a great warrior. So unlike all the common herd. The ordinary man doesn't come near that. What?
I didn't say it's fate. Or destiny that he's meant to be a warrior.
Yeah. Fate or some other divine metaphysical valuation says he is special. And so, because of that, divinely endowed, natural aristocracy, he is not a commoner. He should be treated better. Which undermines the whole idea of an aristocracy to begin with, which is that there are the best, and then there are the others. And the others are always worse.
It's kind of like with Moses, it was kind of like a flip type of, it was the opposite of it, where like he was a commoner but sent down and was raised by the pharaohs and stuff
Right,
like that.
yeah.
And then they didn't, like when he got older, they didn't understand why he couldn't accept the fact that that certain people had to be slaves.
Yeah.
And then they kind of hated him for killing one of the guards because he wanted to have them slaves.
Right. It blurs the distinction between the aristocracy and the ordinary person. You're not sure how to take it. Does Karna being raised as a commoner make him a commoner? Or is it just the accident of birth? Where is his real value situated? And in that instance that you mentioned, very good, yeah, at the tournament, he's kicking ass. And everybody's saying, wow, this guy's great. And it is Draupadi who comes along and says, I'm never going to marry that guy. His father was a wagoner. His father's a common workman. Ugh, beneath me. Now, that is not an endearing characteristic, I think we can say, in Draupadi. If Draupadi's name were Ivanka, we might have a certain baked-in expectation of her. That comes first. And we perhaps lean away from that character a little and say, all right, she's got some issues there. But then when she is brought down so low, when she is being threatened with rape, even then, we have to evaluate our reaction to it and say, maybe, had it coming. And we have to judge ourselves and take responsibility for that sentiment and deal with it honestly. As human beings, we are naturally going to be rather petty, rather jealous. We are going to give in to our base emotions. It would be a very different story if Draupadi were always, going out and feeding the poor and seems like a great girl. And how can that happen to her? Oh my God. Sweep in and save that poor, darling little girl. But it's harder to feel that when your first real introduction to the character, and that is her real first scene, is, that bitch. But yeah, you're meant to reflect on your own reaction there. And yeah, the episode with Karna is brilliant. I was actually trying to decide whether or not I wanted to spend the time talking about Draupadi or Karna for this last little stretch. Thank you for forcing me to grapple with a little of Karna. He is a great character. And it raises the idea of a kind of natural nobility. He is, by all rights, a king. And he swears, but, he is also very humble. He swears allegiance to Duryodhana and maintains that allegiance because Duryodhana basically, treats him well. Selfishly for himself, he exploits Karna, Duryodhana does. But Duryodhana says, stick with me, I'll take care of you. We'll do all right. And Karna goes along with that and says, okay. And because you were nice to me and the Pandavas were really kind of crappy to me, sure, I will do that. And once he gives his word, he follows it through to the end. Towards the end, he learns of his actual birth. He learns that I'm the guy. I'm a Pandava. I am fighting against my own interests. If I just go over there, not only will we most assuredly, with me and Arjuna on the same side, we will most assuredly slaughter all the Kauravas, but I will assume the throne. But with that knowledge, he still says, I swore my allegiance to Duryodhana. And I know he's a douche, but I am going to honor that commitment. So in a way, he is behaving in a more noble way than pretty much anyone else in this story. He has some dark sides. He was the one who shot down the younger brother in the argument about treating Draupadi as they were. But he has a sense of honor. He has a sense of his own individual integrity that he values more than the worldly goods and power that will come from just, compromising on your word, going back on your word. Like, no, his sense of honor won't allow that. And he sees it through to the very end, including his death. He's got convictions. Was that a hand I saw, or were you just sort of like,
I was gonna say, it was also because of the fact that he was adopted by, I forgot the names, but parents from the Kaurava side, and he felt like he didn't really have to doesn't have to like help the pen of the side in any way since he was like betrayed by them from the beginning.
Yeah. He doesn't have to, but it would be to his advantage at a certain point if he did. And he is able to judge that moment in terms of Dharma, quite frankly. What is my duty? My duty is to Dharma itself, which is I gave my word. And that trumps everything else. Even if I know Duryodhana is terrible. Even if I know Duryodhana is guaranteed to fail and I will die. That's all downstream, so to speak. Right now, the choice is binary. Do I go back on my word or do I keep my word? And everything else that results from that is irrelevant. And that's the same choice that Arjuna is presented with in the Bhagavad Gita, where he is being told it's right to go and kill your family. You can't think of it that way. What your role is defined as a warrior. A warrior goes out and fights, and yes, kills. That's what a warrior does. That is your duty. And that overrides everything else. And yes, you are going to cause suffering. Yes, you are going to regret having to slaughter your cousins and your uncles and all these people that you grew up with. But that's all downstream. That is a result of your action. You just need to focus on the action itself. And so that is just another coloring of the same conflict that Karna faces, that I argued before that Yudhishthira faces in terms of the dice game, one way of looking at his behavior. And they're all sort of dealing with these questions of what's the right decision right now? I can't predict in a chaotic universe what will actually come about from those decisions. All I can focus on is the decision itself, to do this or that, a straight binary. And after that, you deal with the consequences as they come, but you don't worry about them beforehand. That in itself is also a convenient role. I have argued in the past that the Bhagavad Gita is a great argument for, war crimes. You do what you have to do, you don't worry about the consequences. Those larger moral issues are for other people to decide. If your job is to destroy that village, level everything in it, and kill everybody within a 5-mile radius, well, that's your job. And the specifics of it, they don't matter. It's not for nothing that this text is associated in Western culture with a guy named Robert Oppenheimer, who designed or was the leader of the team that designed the first nuclear weapon. And he wrote in his diary, I believe, when shortly after the first atomic bombs were dropped on Japan at the end of World War II, he quoted this from the Bhagavad Gita. He said, "I am become death," because he has unleashed something monumental and cataclysmic that he doesn't really understand. And he can't take responsibility for everything that comes from that simple act of following the math as he did to its natural conclusion, which was devastation. This text is asking us all to wrestle with these questions. And if you think it's a clear answer, you're not reading very closely.